Hello, everyone! Throughout the ages, people gazed up at the starry night sky seeking answers. Even nowadays, many people still believe that constellations hold special sway over our lives. Others embrace new technology and beam signals into space, with the hope of receiving wisdom and help from more advanced extraterrestrials. Perhaps these aliens have been watching us all along, patiently awaiting the moment when we can talk to them as equals.
Relax.
1979, outskirts of Wrangell, Alaska. A group of lumberjacks wrap up their work for the day and head home in two pickup trucks. In the first truck, the radio starts acting up, and the driver can't seem to tune it to the right station, no matter how hard he tries. Meanwhile, at a nearby military base, a radio operator picks up some unusual activity in the same area and alerts the troops, prompting them to launch an interception plan and call for backup. Just then, some mysterious force lifts one of the trucks into the air, and then drops it back on the road, causing it to flip over. One of the lumberjacks, who was in the other truck, rushes to help his friends out of the overturned vehicle. To his shock, he sees a massive flying saucer hovering in the sky. The military units rush to the scene, but they arrive too late. The UFO gets to the man and beams a bright light at him, causing his body to freeze before he gets whisked away towards the flying saucer. Our days, California. Isaac Cypress is riding his bike to work. He's a promising young scientist already making significant contributions at NASA. When he arrives, his co-workers Beck and Greta say hi to him. As Isaac sits at his computer, he delves into studying data related to Earth's orbit. In their spare time, Isaac and Beck came up with a fun game where they exchange signals and challenge each other to figure out which artificial satellite sent them. However, this time the two friends detect an unusual signal above Canada, in an area where there aren't supposed to be any satellites. Intrigued, the two friends decide to pull off a playful prank.
Paging ET, please phone home. ET, will you phone home?
Paging Beck and Isaac.
It's not the first time the scientists have come across radar interference before, and so they don't get too excited about it. Everyone just goes back to their desks. Late into the night, Isaac is wide awake, and out of the blue, he sees a weird message on the screen. Their station is getting a data package from that very unknown source they reached out to. The message is confusing, but one thing's for sure. It's not coming from a satellite. The next day, Isaac meets with a therapist to discuss his struggles in connecting with other people. Although he doesn't view this as a major concern, he's more worried about the potential contact with extraterrestrial life. Yet, for the time being, he keeps this worry to himself. The therapist suggests that he begin recording a video diary to help him better manage his emotions. Since his father passed away, Isaac has been going through a tough time. Uncertain about what to say on the video, he first addresses the aliens, and later talks about his family and his dearly missed father, whom he wishes were still with him, perhaps in parallel dimensions. One morning, Isaac heads up into the mountains near the city, where he continues to record his video journal. At that moment, several massive meteorites suddenly streak across the sky, catching the attention of the townspeople. One of them crashes not too far from where Isaac is, sparking his curiosity. He ducks for cover as the military quickly arrives at the scene. Isaac wants to capture valuable footage and sneaks across the woods while choppers hover above. Before long, he's taken aback by a bizarre scene. A colossal flying saucer hovers over the mountain. Isaac immediately records it on his camera. All of a sudden, the UFO vanishes into thin air without a trace. Trying to regain his composure, Isaac senses that someone's watching him. A gray humanoid appears behind him. With trembling hands, Isaac hits the record button and prepares for the worst. But the alien just stands there, silent, before going away into the forest. Isaac runs away in fear. The next day, news of the meteorite travels around the world. Isaac's department is ordered to study samples from the impact site. However, the guy doesn't show up for work. Isaac finds himself by the sea on top of a hill. He has no memory of how he ended up here. Isaac takes a look at his camera, where he finds a video showing extraterrestrial visitors. The video stops just when the guy starts floating off the ground and soaring into the sky. He realizes he didn't run away and was actually abducted by those aliens. His aching right arm confirms it. Other than feeling a bit worn out, Isaac seems fine. He returns home where he examines his arm. Although it works just fine, it still hurts. Isaac looks at the monitor screen and, out of the blue, it vanishes without a trace. In its place appears a strange space distortion. Isaac begins to question his sanity. He tests the phenomenon with his video camera, and it also disappears into thin air. He starts panicking because that was his sole proof of the UFO encounter. Summoning all his inner strength, he manages to retrieve the device. It appears he now possesses the ability to make objects vanish simply by concentrating. Isaac visits the hospital where he is diagnosed with simple dehydration. However, upon further examination, they discovered that the source of the pain in his arm is a fracture. The x-rays reveal an exceptionally straight and fine crack, almost as thin as a strand of hair.
It appears as though your arm was perfectly cut all the way through.
But there are no scars or signs of outside intervention on the skin. The doctor promises to study the x-ray in more detail and call back. Isaac returns to work, where he tries to show Beck his new abilities, but it doesn't work. Isaac has to focus really hard, and the glass does disappear. But Beck still keeps seeing it, and calmly picks it up with his hand.
Stared at it for 5 minutes, and then I don't know what that was.
No, I mean it disappeared.
Bewildered, Isaac decides to show Beck the footage of the aliens that he captured on camera. This time, both he and Beck witness the same astonishing scene. Beck is taken aback and asks where Isaac has been for the past 3 days. Isaac suddenly realizes that this time period is completely wiped from his memory, and it terrifies him greatly. Greta returns with some data on the meteorite samples. They couldn't find any fragments or traces of metal that are usually present at impact sites. It's almost as if the rocks had simply disappeared. Moreover, the only video evidence of the meteorite's fall is just footage from cell phones. One of such videos made its way onto a scientific journal's website and has garnered millions of views. When Isaac hears about this, he rushes to upload his own video to the website, calling it Alien Abduction. The video quickly goes viral, catching the attention of journalists who start to investigate the story. The next morning, Isaac receives a phone call with an invitation for a TV interview, and his email inbox is flooded with similar offers. However, excitement and surprise are not the only reactions from the viewers. A significant number of people question the video's authenticity, leaving thousands of comments accusing Isaac of being a fraud and openly insulting him. Isaac's anxiety is through the roof because he's never been in the spotlight before. Nevertheless, his overwhelming urge to share the truth compels him to show up for a live broadcast in a studio. The friendly host welcomes him, and Isaac nervously tells his story to the cameras. He's a bit flustered and stutters while speaking. The journalist patiently waits for him to finish before going on the offensive with a series of probing questions. She finds it suspicious that he was alone in the woods with the camera. Despite his shyness, Isaac tells the viewers about his video diary. The host then mentions his background as a computer programmer and asks if he could have created the video on a computer. This really angers Isaac, and he passionately swears he's telling the truth. He already regrets agreeing to the interview. In the following days, the entire world is discussing it, dissecting every detail to generate more views and hype.
Oh, come on. In this case, there's no way to know, and so it's not viable evidence. This is just a kid seeking attention, and that's all.
Isaac finds himself deeply frustrated that no one believes him. Now he can't even go outside without drawing attention to himself. The majority of people doubt his story. On a different channel, he sees an imposter who claims to have helped Isaac in creating the phony footage of the abduction. Isaac begins scouring the internet for others who shared their stories about UFO encounters. He's particularly interested in finding info about arm pain and unusual fractures on x-rays. Since Isaac hasn't previously disclosed these details to the public, they seem key to finding credible stories. Eventually, he reaches out to a user who had the same symptoms, and they agree to meet at a local cafe. Later on, as Isaac waits, he suddenly feels dizzy, and everything around him starts to lift off the ground. Just as the waitress asks for his order, the strange experience abruptly stops. Soon after, a girl named Sarah appears. At first, she acts like nothing unusual happened to her. The extraterrestrial visitors seem to have tampered with her memory. When Isaac shows her the video, it doesn't make things any clearer. However, being a proponent of conspiracy theories, he starts listing various instances of alien encounters on Earth. The expression on the girl's face changes, and she recalls hearing about an alien abduction of lumberjacks in Alaska. She says she has more information on her computer but recalls that, after the witness shared his story, he vanished without a trace. This appears to be the main reason Sarah is reluctant to openly discuss her own experience. She doesn't want to stick around for long and leaves, but promises to stay in touch. Meanwhile, an unfamiliar old man surrounded by radio devices picks up a suspicious signal from space. A smile appears on his face. A few days later, Sarah gives Isaac a call and shares details about the abduction that happened in Alaska. The name of the victim is Carl Meisner, and he even passed a polygraph test. Meanwhile, Isaac stumbles upon yet another report tarnishing his good name. Frustrated by the misinformation, he decides to send copies of his video to various organizations interested in extraterrestrial research. The following day, Isaac carries a stack of letters to the mailbox and drops them on the sidewalk. A kind stranger lends him a hand and recognizes Isaac. This stranger, Keith Oberman, is a writer who also has an online blog. He hands Isaac his business card, suggesting they work together to set the record straight for the public. Isaac is still bothered by the media portraying him as a liar, prompting him to reach out to Keith the next day. Keith sets the meeting in a towering skyscraper. As Isaac shows up, the receptionist guides him to the writer's office, where Keith warmly greets him. Keith suggests Isaac take a lie detector test and then share the results in the article, which would help convince the skeptics. Isaac readily agrees, and Keith quickly sets up the device, linking it to a laptop. With the lie detector strapped on, Isaac answers Keith's questions confidently. When Isaac once again describes the abduction, Keith watches the screen intently and suddenly steps out into the hallway for a moment. To Isaac's surprise, two men in black suits and sunglasses enter the office and restrain him. Isaac manages to break free from their grip and makes a dash for it. One of the agents draws a gun and incapacitates Isaac with a strange blue beam. When Isaac wakes up, he finds himself being escorted by androids dressed in clean white overalls and helmets. They lead him into a spotless white room and secure him in a chair. As he glances towards the door, he's startled to see that Sarah has also been apprehended by the agents from the Secret Service. Or could it be aliens again? Isaac is in a state of panic as he struggles to make sense of the situation. One thing becomes perfectly clear. He's in trouble. A screen in front of him flickers to life, revealing Keith, who introduces himself as Agent Graves. Keith proceeds to explain that Isaac's detainment is essential for the public good and the future of humanity. Isaac is not the only one who was abducted by aliens, and he will now need to undergo a series of tests.
We just ask that you remain compliant, and this will go smoothly for everyone.
The androids scan Isaac's right arm and find a tracking device in it. Graves then asks Isaac to focus on objects to test his abilities. Isaac looks at them as he did with the camera and monitor, but nothing happens. Graves is disappointed. Afterward, he asks what Isaac knows about Carl Meisner in British Columbia, one of the provinces in Canada. For some reason, the agent assumes that Isaac and Carl have met. Isaac gets scared and tells Graves he has no idea what he's talking about and no longer wants to play by his rules. He attempts to break free and succeeds, using an iron rack to knock out the two androids, one of which starts leaking a glowing liquid from its head. Isaac rushes into the hallway, where he finds Sarah and sets her free. Together, they make a run for it, dodging the androids shooting at them. Isaac also manages to grab the weapons from the knockdown guards, but now, all the doors are blocked. Isaac uses his powers to open the exit, and they find themselves in a village in the middle of the jungle. As they stand there, a wagon passes by. It seems they've been transported very far from home. Graves orders to tail the escapees, hoping they'll lead him to Carl Meisner. The androids on motorcycles set out to help the agents in their search. Isaac and Sarah find a local cafe and realize they're in Costa Rica. From what Graves said, Carl Meisner may know more about everything that's going on. They have to find him. Isaac asks the bartender where he can access the internet. She sends him to a neighboring village to a man named Zed. When they get to him, Zed doesn't believe Isaac is telling him his real name.
Look, I need to let you know up front that you need to be 100% honest with me. If you tell me one wrong thing, I can't help you.
The hacker Googles Isaac's name and then agrees to help him. However, before Isaac can explain what he needs, he has to urge everyone to hide from the androids that have just appeared nearby. Together, the trio manages to slip into the jungle. There, Isaac and Sarah learn from Zed that the pursuers are actually agents of the International Space Research Program, a covert division of the United Nations. Zed knows a lot of things and does his best to remain inconspicuous to these agents, often moving from place to place. Eventually, they arrive at a secluded cabin nestled among the treetops, where they can lay low for a while. Sarah and Isaac take a short break, enjoying the beautiful view from the balcony. The girl admits that she had seen Isaac on the news before they met at the cafe. She's keeping her abduction story secret, trying not to share it with anyone. Back then, she was staying in her uncle and aunt's mountain cabin, and they went outside one evening. Sarah heard a peculiar rumbling sound outside but didn't pay much attention to it and just went to bed. When she woke up, it was 2 a.m, and her uncle and aunt were panicked. It turned out she had been missing for 2 days, with search parties sweeping the area. Naturally, no one believed her when she mentioned the strange object in the sky. She searched the internet and found people who had similar experiences. Isaac knows really well how Sarah feels. No one believed Sarah's story either. People thought she ran away just to get attention. Meanwhile, Zed starts looking for information about Carl, but there's almost nothing about him online. Then Isaac remembers the signal he received from an unknown source at work. They check the area by the coordinates and discover a cabin in the middle of nowhere with an internet connection. Hiding inside it is Carl Meisner, surrounded by his equipment. They try to set up a video chat with Carl. The man sees someone named Zed calling him and answers. Isaac tries to talk to him, but Carl hangs up immediately. The young men make a second attempt to contact him, and Isaac quickly brings Carl up to speed. The abduction story gets Carl's attention, but he is even more surprised that the data from his hideout reached NASA. He asks to send him the data, and Zed downloads it from NASA's server. Carl converts it into an audio signal. The alien message is decrypted.
We are coming Thursday, October 21st, 4 p.m.
Carl jots down the exact coordinates mentioned in the message, and it turns out that the aliens will arrive near his cabin in 5 days. Carl tells Isaac to keep a low profile and refrain from using any gadgets to avoid drawing the attention of the agents. Afterward, Carl ends the call, making it impossible to reach him again. Isaac is eager to head to Canada immediately, but Sarah finds the idea a bit too extreme. However, Isaac insists he'll go crazy and never get a good night's sleep if he doesn't unravel this mystery. Zed and Sarah agree to help him. The three of them start their journey, departing from Costa Rica in a small airplane. They're flying over the ocean towards British Columbia. Meanwhile, Graves spots them using satellite technology and calls for backup. In Canada, the friends get on a train. On the way, Isaac asks about Sarah's ring. Her uncle gave it to her so she would always remember that she is loved. Isaac also talks about his studies and work. Zed notices androids on motorcycles in the window. They manage to catch up with the train and slip inside as it speeds along. The friends dash into the vestibule, where Zed takes out some special masks to mess up the robot's face recognition. They all take their seats, but the androids are still eyeing Isaac from every angle. The poor guy starts to freak out, and with good reason. One of the robots pulls out a gun, but Isaac dodges the blast. The trio makes a quick getaway and climbs up onto the roof. One of the androids trails them but crashes into an obstacle. Zed kicks the other one, tossing it out. As the train comes to a stop, everyone gets off safely and continues their journey in a minivan. When they reach Carl's cabin, the security cameras hidden in the trees quickly spot the guests. Without hesitation, Carl goes outside with a shotgun in hand. When he sees Isaac, he eases up.
Have you been deactivated?
What do you mean?
Is anybody following you?
It's just us.
The old man takes a special gadget and deactivates the tracking device in Isaac and Sarah's arms. The agents immediately lose the signal. Carl invites everyone into the cabin. The aliens won't be here for another 2 days. Since Carl managed to escape from the agents, he's been busy setting up his station to pick up signals from the aliens. Over time, he figured out a way to convert the data into sound and translate their language into something humans can understand. Right now, he's listening to a file that contains conversations intercepted from the aliens who are approaching Earth. These conversations aren't particularly exciting, and the message revealing the exact date and coordinates of their next visit is the most valuable discovery so far. This might be the first ever exchange between aliens and humans, and there's a chance they can send another response to the aliens. Isaac asks how Carl was abducted. The old man says he was driving behind his friends and saw their truck turn over. He ran into the woods where he felt a powerful impact. It was a beam of light. He was paralyzed and lifted into the air. He doesn't remember anything after that. There's not much to do in the cabin, and outside it starts raining. Sarah spots an old record player. Carl proudly claims it once belonged to Franklin Roosevelt. The girl puts on a Beethoven record. Meanwhile, the Secret Service pinpoints the location of the fugitives, and Graves gives the order to capture them. Back at the cabin, Zed is surprised by Carl's advanced equipment.
And you figured out all this yourself?
Just about.
Weren't you a lumberjack?
Well, the old man has been alone for ages. Is it really surprising he figured out a way to talk to aliens? Isaac and Sarah are out for a walk, remembering the time they escaped from the agents. The girl believes they might have been actually changed by aliens. Isaac even used his abilities to unlock the doors back at the facility. But the mystery that haunts them still is why were they abducted and then brought back? They both sense some kind of connection between them and are hopeful that the aliens might have some answers. For now, they're just enjoying some worry-free time together while they can. When they get back to the cabin, Carl tells Isaac to get ready for tomorrow. Nobody's sure what's going to happen, so they have to be cautious. Later in the night, Sarah lies awake, too excited to sleep. She calls Isaac, and they chat once more about the strange twist of fate that brought them together. Isaac is happy that everything happened the way it did. He's got the feeling that Sarah is the first girl who truly gets him, and it seems like the feeling is mutual. The fateful moment arrives, and the cabin shudders as though caught in an earthquake. Isaac hurries outside to search for the aliens, while the others choose to stay indoors. Making his way through the woods, he sees one of the extraterrestrials. The alien looks at him quietly, and Isaac asks them about their purpose. Together, they make their way back to the cabin where Carl activates his translator. The humanoid visitor clarifies that in the past, they used to abduct people to gather knowledge about medicine, science, and technology. However, now they are in pursuit of something more profound, something beyond their grasp.
We search for the origin of the universe, the greatest conceivable existent.
The extraterrestrial visitor has a question for the humans. He gently touches Isaac and shares scenes from the Bible related to Jesus Christ. The aliens believe Jesus to be the link to the origin of everything. The friends then offer some insights into religion. Sarah asks the alien about her arm fracture that appeared after the abduction. The alien puts a bracelet on her, splitting her arm at the spot of the fracture. Inside, there's revealed to be a device that was recording and sending information to the extraterrestrial visitors. The aliens get it back.
Isaac, your struggle for proof is impossible in the world where seeing is believing.
The aliens have come to the conclusion that faith is the ultimate way to see something and change the world. At this point, the security system of Carl's cabin goes off. The agents have already arrived at the entrance and are surrounding the house. The aliens haven't yet removed the tracking device from Isaac's arm. Agent Graves asks about the fate of his father, Ronald Graves, who happened to be one of the lumberjacks in the overturned car. Graves thinks that Carl did something to his dad. Carl walks out of the cabin holding a shotgun and assures him he doesn't know what happened to Ronald. However, Graves recalls that Carl failed the lie detector test, prompting the agent to give the command to open fire, causing Carl to collapse from the beam. Sarah runs outside to help him and is also shot. Isaac, meanwhile, remains immobilized at the table with his arm split in half, asking the aliens to hurry up. The aliens tell Isaac to focus and harness his abilities. The extraterrestrials vanish into another dimension, leaving Graves impatient as he commands his team to open fire on the cabin. Isaac focuses and stops time. He rescues Sarah, carrying her in his arms, and returns to protect Carl and Zed from the beams shot by the agents. Meanwhile, Graves searches the now empty house, not knowing where everyone is gone. The guys suddenly find themselves in a parallel dimension where the cabin remains, but there are aliens instead of agents. A gentle touch from the aliens brings Carl and Sarah back to their senses. They leave together, and a hovering flying saucer appears above the bewildered agents. 6 months later, Sarah and Isaac are now a couple and live a quiet, uneventful life in Costa Rica. Well, except for the fact that Isaac is using the abilities granted to him by the aliens. Meanwhile, Carl and Zed have teamed up, working remotely for NASA, and nurturing their dream of establishing their own agency. Agent Graves, on the other hand, has lost his job due to the abuse of his authority and failing the mission. At the end of the movie, it's mentioned that Zed and Carl are involved in a project called Zuma. Interestingly, Zuma is a real classified US government satellite. It was launched in 2018 by SpaceX using a Falcon 9 rocket, and its development cost nearly $3.5 billion. The project's purpose remains a well-kept secret, but there have been rumors that the launch may not have gone as planned, suggesting the rocket either crashed or didn't place the satellite in its intended orbit. The secrecy surrounding Zuma has even led to speculations that the intelligence agencies deliberately spread these rumors to keep the satellite's true mission concealed. Nevertheless, hiding such a device in the orbit is nearly impossible, and amateur satellite trackers have officially proven it's not there. As always, check out the movie name in the description below. In the meantime, tell us in the comments, why do you think aliens haven't made contact with humanity yet? Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button to get even more cool recaps.